Hey campers, welcome to day 4 of the Gardening Skill Group. Today I want to talk to you guys about watering your plants. So I know it seems pretty simple and straightforward because we know that plants need water and sunlight to grow, but it's very crucial that your plants get enough water but also not too much water. So I want to show you my plants today that I've been growing since early March and how I've kept them nice and happy and healthy with the adequate amount of water. So I want to show you this pot right here, and this is also the same one in a different color. And this is one of my favorite kinds of flower pots because it's got a little tray down here with a little lip so I can water from the bottom, so then the plant can take up directly what it needs. But I can also water from the top, and then I can just make sure that once I see it trickling down to the bottom, I stop watering. But I only had 2 of those pots, so I had to get creative because I have a lot of other plants here. So what I decided to do, I started with these 2 pots right here, these 2 clay pots. So my bottom pot does not have a hole, it's solid on the bottom. But my pot on the inside has a hole in the bottom right in the center, and as you can see I put some string that I braided through the hole here, and it acts like a wick and it takes up water, and I put water in the inside of the pot so I can just use my watering can and water on the inside, and then with the string at the bottom the plant can take up exactly how much water it needs whenever it wants. And here again, I can also water from the top if I want to, and it'll drain out in the bottom if I added too much water. Now, this plant is pretty big and takes up most of the room in my pot, so I'm really glad that I can water from the bottom. And I'm going to show you how to make the wick, but I want to show you some of my other pots as well, because these 2 happen to be basically the same size, and they stack really nice inside each other with a nice little gap in the bottom, so that way it's not too tight, so there's actually can be some water in there. But some of my pots didn't fit so well like that. Like right here, I had this one, which is a little bit smaller than my bigger pot here, so what I did was I put some rocks in the bottom for it to rest on top of. And I still have the wick, and it still can take in the water it needs, but then it rests on the top here so I can pick it up when I need to. I did the same thing with this pot because they're basically the same. And for this pot, I used, because this pot is very small compared to the big pot, I used like little tiny fish tank gravel, and then put that on the bottom, and still had the wick, and stack it inside. So again, I can just put the water in the bottom of the big pot if I want to, and then the plant right here is taking up whatever it needs. I also want to show you this one in particular. So this little clay pot is normal like the other ones. It has a nice hole in the inside, and I could put my wick in the inside, but I was out of bigger pots to place it in. So I took this plastic cup and put some rocks in the bottom so that it can rest on here with the wick. And I can actually see my water level pretty well with this one. I just watered this one earlier. So I can see when I need to add more water to it. Now, so these plants right here are different kinds of succulents, so they don't need to be watered all the time. So that's why I really like being able to see the water level on this one. Now, if you end up planting the marigolds that we started yesterday and the day before, then you're going to want to make sure they get plenty of water, but still you can make sure you put it in one of these kinds of pots so they have nice drainage so it takes up what it needs when it wants to, and if you accidentally overwater it, then it's okay, it'll just drain out the bottom. And then I have the other ones like here. I just use one of these pots that something else, I think some marigolds actually came in this pot from the store, and I repurposed it to plant my succulent inside of this one, and still, because it had a hole, I still used the wick on the bottom and put it in my clay pot. So, all this to say, I'm sure you can find some things around your house, whether it's plastic cups or flower pots or just any other random containers that maybe you guys aren't using anymore that you want to use as flower pots. I didn't actually have to buy any flower pots to use for all of my little succulents as they started to grow, and I had to transplant them. So, I'd love to see what kinds of cool, fun things you could use as flower pots as you guys start planting more plants. But I do want to show you how to make the wick. So for the wick, I'm going to use kitchen string. So I found this at the grocery store in the section where you can get like the foil pans and pie plates and everything. So it's just basically almost like yarn, just all cotton thread and everything. So I'm just going to take a length of this, and I don't have scissors because there's a little blade on the box. So this is maybe like, I don't know, not quite a foot of string, and I want 3 pieces, a total of 3 pieces just like this, because I want them to be the same because I'm going to make a braid. Just kind of measure it out as best as you can. It doesn't have to be perfect, It's just going to get wet anyway. Alright, so I have my 3 pieces. They're roughly the same length. So I'm going to tie them in a knot, loop it around my finger, and stick the end through. I'm going to pull it tight. Now, depending on the size of the hole in the bottom of your flower pot, you might have to change the size of the knot. So if you have a nice petite little pot like this, you're probably going to want a smaller knot so that way you can still put all the string through without the whole thing falling through the hole. And if you have a bigger pot like this one, you're going to need to maybe knot it maybe another time. So I'll do that now. So that way it definitely plugs up the hole. Because we don't want it to fall all the way through or else it kind of defeats the purpose. So then I'm just going to braid. And it doesn't have to be perfect. And also, if you don't know how to braid, you can either leave it the way it is with the strings hanging out, because in one of my pots it was even too skinny for me to make a braid, so I just left a singular piece of string. Or you can twist it if you want, or you could pretend that it's a friendship bracelet and make little knots. Whatever you want to do, just make sure that your top knot is big enough that it doesn't go through the hole, and then your string on the bottom is small enough that it can fit through the hole. Okay, so I'm just gonna twist the rest of this so I'm not sitting here forever. But so after I've either finished braiding or I've finished twisting, whatever I want to do, I'm just going to take the bottom end and I'm going to do the same thing that I did before. Just kind of tie it off a little bit. Just make sure it's skinnier than my top knot so it still fits through. And then all you have to do is water from the bottom. Alright campers, so now you know how to take care of your plants and make sure they get plenty of water, but not too much water. So just keep them either outside or on a windowsill. Make sure you water from the bottom or have them in a place where you can water from the top if they drain out, and you should be good to go. So good luck with all your planting.